Hello, and welcome to episode 14 of the Book Blab. My name is Amy, and I blog at Sunlit Pages, and I'm here with Suzanne of Such Stuff, and we're here to talk about another bookish topic. So, Suzanne, how is your summer going so far?
It's been a little crazy.
I can see your new house behind you. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, we're here in my fancy brand new office / guest room, which is an exciting room to have, an extra room.
Yeah, that's great.
So we moved, and we're here. That's how my summer's been going.
And you have a few weeks left before school starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
When does school
about
start
a month.
For you? About a month.
Actually, 1 month from today.
Awesome! It's so exciting. Well, so today, in light of the fact that it is summer and that many people are probably participating in some form of a summer reading program with their library, we thought it would be fun to talk about summer reading programs. And this is something that I've talked about on my blog a couple of times, and I'll link to those posts in the show notes. But we thought it would be fun to kind of just have a little chat about it and talk about our own experiences with library programs or just summer reading programs in general. So Suzanne, why don't you start us off by just telling us a little bit about your own experience with summer reading programs?
Right. So I'll admit that I have limited experience because it's kind of shameful to admit that growing up we weren't a library family. Maybe this isn't shameful. I don't know.
That does surprise me, though. I don't think it's shameful, but that does surprise me that you weren't. Did you just buy a lot of books?
Yeah. My mom was a book buyer. So birthdays and Christmas was just about getting, like 50 books at a time. So it was great. We had like thousands and thousands of books in my home, which was wonderful. But yeah, I kind of had a different personality about book buying. Anyway, so yeah, we didn't go to the library a whole lot. So my first experience with summer reading programs has been with my own children, mostly at our library in Houston. And it was fine. It wasn't a super exciting program. They had different tiers, I guess. And so my only experience was with the toddler preschool tier, which was like read 10 books and then you get to pick out a free book. And that was kind of the extent of it. And we read 10 books in a day or two, right? And because, it's just.
And could you earn more than one book, or once you earned your one book, were you done for the summer?
I think you could earn one book a month.
Okay.
So I think like June, July, August, we earned 3 different books. And the books were good. They were good prizes. We got, like some original Curious Georges, and I think, like a Clifford book, and I can't remember what else. They were okay books. So it was fine. It was fun to get new books. And it was fun. But that has been the extent of my summer reading incentive programs. And I will say that in elementary school, my elementary school definitely had like the Pizza Hut coupons for the best things that were the best. I loved those. So I've always loved incentive programs. So anyway, when I read about what your experience was with the summer reading program, I was like, what is this magical library you grew up with? Anyway, I want to hear it. Tell us about your summer reading program as a kid.
Yeah, so as a kid, I grew up in a tiny little town, but it did have an awesome summer reading program. And it had a tiny library, too. It was really small. But the way it worked was you would get your reading log at the beginning of the summer. And then for every 2 hours of reading, you'd have a parent sign off on that. And then you could go into the library at any time and cash in those prizes. So every 2 hours counted as one prize. And they would have all kinds of little things like, treats, candy bars, soda, little toys, little games, things like that. And then once you filled up 20 hours worth of reading on your log, then you got to choose a book. And you could do this for as many hours as you wanted. So, you know, we would do well over 100 hours of reading every summer, and just cash in so many prizes. So it was really fun because there wasn't a limit to it, you know, and so it actually did encourage us to read more, which I feel like a summer reading program should do. And here in Salt Lake, originally the program that we had, I thought it was pretty lame because it was just read 20 minutes, and after you did that for 7 days, you got a little prize. But it didn't matter if you read more or not, you know, you still just got the one little prize. But compared to what we have now, that was really great, because now, well, I should just tell you a little bit. So you can, to color in a little part on your log, you can draw a picture, you can try a new craft, you can try a new recipe, you can do a puppet show, you can ride your bike. So, and then all you get at the end, after you've filled in all of these things by not reading, you can go get a book at the library. So but
they're all good. They're all
good things. That's the thing. It's not that these won't be good things to do over the summer. It's just, it seems funny to call it a summer reading program if you're not actually required to read for it.
Yeah, that is kind of funny.
So I think it should just be like a summer incentive program to just be healthy and active and do good things, but not sponsored by the library, maybe. So anyway, because we were faced with this kind of program, and because I had all of these wonderful memories from my own childhood, I decided to kind of duplicate it for my own kids. So now we just do our own summer reading program.
Okay, and I think this is so brilliant, which is why I wanted to, I know you've written about it on the blog, that's why I wanted to talk about it here, because I think this is just the most brilliant idea ever. So let's go ahead and jump to that. Let's talk about what you do with your kids.
Okay, so with my kids, and we just started this last summer, and it worked really well. So we've pretty much done it the same way this summer. But at the beginning of the summer, I just give them this reading log, and so for every star, that counts for 2 hours for most of my kids. For Clark, who is 3, he just can get a prize by an hour of reading, and that's someone else reading to him, obviously, because he can't read. You can actually not do that. You're kind of bumping the table. And so they just fill out their, so they time themselves with their own little watch, the 3 older boys do, and then every time they get up to 2 hours, they color in a star. And then when we get the prizes, which is usually once a week, then I'll just kind of initial where they got to for that week. And then when they've filled out a row of stars, then they get to choose a book. And the great thing is, because I'm doing the program, I get to choose the books. So I get to select books that I would love to have in our own home. And then one other thing that we've done besides that is on this last page, we have summer reading books and just different categories, like read an award-winning book, read a biography. So that, and then every time they do that, so read a book to fulfill one of these categories, they can earn an extra prize that way. And that's just a way for them to get more exposure to other types of books. So I'm always telling my kids to be adventurous readers, because I think, you know, it's great to read what you already love, but you could be missing out on some great things by not being willing to try. And I've noticed with them, and also with myself, like we have our comfort books and we don't like to kind of get outside of that. But so the reason we do this is the incentive page is just so that they can explore some new territory that maybe they wouldn't otherwise. They just have a little bit more incentive.
That's great.
So
yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about like how do your kids?
So I asked my 7-year-old Max if he wanted to come.
Yeah. Hi, Max.
Say hi. Hi. So I thought we could kind of pick his brain a little bit and see how he likes the summer reading program and what's his favorite part about it. So, Max, do you like the summer reading program?
I like it a lot.
Tell us a little bit about why you like it.
Well, it's because I like it when you like to kind of read books over again, kind of refresh your memory.
You like rereading books?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that counts towards your reading?
And it's also fun for me to refresh my memory on the facts of my nonfiction books.
Oh yeah, you like to. So you like to reread. What do you think about the prizes?
I like them a lot.
So what's been your favorite prize? What do you like to pick out?
I like the chips.
The chips. Yeah, so my kids, we do a lot of snack type foods for prizes, and that's partly just because I don't love a lot of junky toys, so I would rather give them something that they can consume, and it will just go away then. But also, it's been kind of fun because they've been able to get snacks that we wouldn't buy otherwise, normally. And they like that. And then they kind of just have a little snack stash that they keep. So it kind of makes it so that I don't even have to worry about snack time because they just have their own set of snacks. So
that sounds fun.
So Max, do you think that it's a good thing for kids to be rewarded for reading? How do you feel about that?
I think it's kind of fun, but not necessarily. Like, if it's a reading program, it's okay. But other than that, awarded for reading, like in one book I read, it was a fiction, but she got banished from reading because she liked to read so much.
Did she? Yeah, that sometimes happens. Sometimes I do say, Max, stop reading. I need you to do some other things.
But I like reading.
I know. So do you think the summer reading program makes you want to read more, though?
Yes.
Think you read more because of it? Yeah. So how much would you say that you read at night when you go to bed?
I think usually the minimum is usually around 30 minutes, and that's when it's really late when I get to bed.
What's the maximum? How much do you sometimes read?
Sometimes over 2 hours.
Yeah. Sometimes he reads for over 2 hours just when he goes to bed. So, and then we also do quiet reading time in the afternoon. So they kind of have designated times when they would be reading anyway. So.
So right, Max, my question for you is, how much do you read during the school year then, when you're in school? Do you still read at night?
Yes, just only like 20 minutes.
Yeah, usually not quite as much.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think, we've got another visitor, it looks like.
Hi,
Carter. He just woke up from his nap.
Do you want to go downstairs to Dad?
Okay. I will say that I think the summer reading program has really helped you expand the kinds of books that you read. Would you say that that's true, that you've been exploring new books?
True.
So I think Max has really gained a new love of reading this summer that I didn't see before. You think that's true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is probably because, got him in the habit with tracking his time, but then he's just found some books that he's really loved. What's been one of your favorite books you've read this summer?
The Sign of the Beaver.
Oh yeah, he read The Sign of the Beaver earlier in the year.
Awesome.
And that actually fulfilled his book to read a Newbery Award winner. Yep.
But it's also really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Beaver tribe of Indians helping this white boy.
Yeah.
Because his dad, so him and his dad went, got a claim, built a house on the claim, and his dad went back to get his mom, his sister, and his baby, but the baby actually died.
Oh, that's sad. So, okay. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to ask Max before we?
No, thanks, Max. That was really fun to hear.
Do you want to show your watch? This is the kind of watch that we use just to track their time. He just wears it all the time, huh? So you can always time yourself. Okay. Hey, Clark, go with Max, okay? Oh, would you go tell Dad to come get Clark? Okay, it's okay. Just go tell Dad. Okay. So I think also, besides that, we wanted to talk a little bit about just the nature of incentive programs and the benefits and the drawbacks.
Right, because you brought it up a little bit with Max, but there is kind of that debate out there about whether external motivation is good for encouraging reading, or whether, and I mean, I will say, I used to be an English teacher, and as a parent, I mean, it is important to inspire internal motivation and to sort of focus on, like making sure kids want to read because they actually want to read. But I think it's pretty clear that you and I are both a fan of external. I mean, I don't have any problem with external motivation when it's getting them to read. Right. Because anything that increases reading, right, it's got to be a positive thing. So yeah, let's talk about this. Other positives, pros and cons that you've seen.
Well, and I think, for a lot of kids, well, like I was saying with Max before, so over the school year, he is my nonfiction kid. He really loves nonfiction. So he would read that, but for his school reading, he was supposed to be reading fiction because he would come home with these comprehension questions that he was supposed to answer. And that was a big struggle. Every week it seemed like he just fought that. And this summer, I mean, it's been amazing. It's just opened up the world of reading to him, and the world of fiction to him, which I don't have any problem with nonfiction. I'm fine with him reading that as much as he wants, but just showing him that there are fictional stories that he will like. And, Sign of the Beaver was one of them, because I think he didn't really know that those kind of stories, I mean, we've done a lot with reading aloud, but as far as just books that he could read on his own, he hadn't had that experience with good, realistic fiction like that, and he loved it. So we've been exploring other books like that also this summer. So I think
his enthusiasm was pretty evident.
Yeah, right. So I think with readers who are maybe struggling, either they're not confident in their reading skills or they just don't love it, I think an incentive program can just help them get over that hump and can love of reading that will then propel them forward without any sort of incentive. But I will say, and this is probably just my personality, but I love checklists and I love goals and I love rewards. And so I think for me, even with something like this that I love, I don't need to develop a love of reading. I already have it, but it's just so fun to do something and be rewarded for it. Yeah. So, so I don't know what Oh, yeah,
well, I was just thinking that, right, like even for really fluent readers, this is just a fun thing to do, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking an activity that's already fun and making it more fun by throwing in like rewards for meeting goals or anything. Anyway, yeah. So I think it's great for inspiring all types of readers.
Right. And I think also if you already do love reading, I think it almost validates that love. Do you know what I'm saying? You're rewarded for something that you already love doing. So like, good for you. You chose a really good hobby. So I think that's just really cool for my kids to know, like, I love reading and my mom loves reading and she loves it so much that she's willing to reward me for it.
Exactly.
And I think for us, the other great thing about an incentive is just that, you know, it kind of gives a little more structure to our summers, and it places emphasis on reading, so that when my kids are bored and I say, go read a book, they want to read a book, because they know that it will have some value beyond just the actual reading of the book. So it almost feels like, you know, they're working and getting rewarded for it, even though they're not. They're doing something that they already like doing. I don't know. That probably didn't make sense, but.
No, it did. So this got me thinking about, are there such thing as adult summer reading programs?
So our library does do an adult summer reading program.
Okay, what's it like? Is it any good?
Well, again, it's like the kids program. So you can basically be a good person and get a free book. But, you know, a couple of years ago when they were still doing more of a traditional summer reading program, I think, let's see, the way they did it was, I think rather than tracking your time, you tracked your books, you know, so they you would just read like 3 books a month or something like that, and then you would get a prize at the end of it. So, yeah, that's how they used to do it, which was pretty fun.
So if kids get like chips and candy and whatnot, and then free books, like, yeah, what would, I'm seriously thinking about this adult summer reading program. What would my ideal adult summer reading program look like? What would my treats be? And
I know.
Like, I want to design my own for myself, right? Like,
well, what would some of your treats be? I'm super curious to know, like, for little, you know, for the little incremental prizes, what would you?
I mean, chocolates up there. Yeah, I'd have to think about this. Well, yeah, what are some good ones? We're going to have to open this up to comments.
I don't know.
I mean, I might do.
Right, I'm trying to think of like small things that would be nice, like maybe a nice new pen. I would go for that, or some nail polish, or yeah, some kinds of treats like, yeah, chocolate would be good. And you know.
and then obviously, like, the list of books that I would like to get for myself is endless. So that would be a lot of fun.
I know. Wouldn't it be fun just to have permission to give yourself a book?
Yeah.
So, and I think for me, like, I haven't rewarded myself for reading before, but I think if I was going to, I might, you know, come up with a list of books that I've maybe been wanting to read, but also kind of avoiding for one reason or another, and maybe say, you know, every time you read one of the books off of this list, you can treat yourself with a book that you've been wanting to buy or something like that.
Well, and I know you have very specific goals for your whole year. I was actually thinking that, like, I don't know if I could do a whole year, but a summer, like 3 months worth of specific goals. These are my summer reading goals, and I'm going to reward myself with something at the end. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm really going to think about this for next summer, I think.
Yeah.
Designing.
Well, we should do it together then. So
we should.
We'll motivate each other.
We'll have to talk more about this. Definitely.
Okay. All right. So, but for our viewers, you know, we would love to hear about the summer reading programs in your cities or ones that you've done with your kids. And if you have any questions for us about summer reading programs or what we do, that would be great too. So feel free to leave a comment.
It is about what your ideal summer reading program would look like.
Yes, that would be interesting too. I would love to know, because I think for some people, maybe tracking every 2 hours might get a little bit tedious, you know? So I'd be curious to know if other people have done more like, you know, read this number of books and then you get a prize, or read set, like a kind of prescribed list of books or something. So yeah, that would be interesting. And I will say, sorry, I meant to say this when I was just talking about our summer reading program, but having my kids track their time. I've had parents ask me about this before. That's why I'm bringing it up, because people will ask, like, how do you get your kids to actually keep track of their time? And I will say that during the first week of summer, there's always a little bit of a learning curve, and they're forgetting to start their time, or they're forgetting to stop their time, or they're clearing it on their watch by accident before they get up to 2 hours. But it really only takes a week of of me being consistent and saying, okay, don't clear your time until you get to 2 hours. As soon as you get to 2 hours, mark off your start, clear it, and start over. And then it works. But there is, you know, I would tell people, don't get frustrated at first, because it does take a little bit for them to get used to timing themselves.
Yeah, okay, good to know.
So, okay, so is that it for our summer reading? Should we move on to our book recommendations?
Let's do, yeah.
Okay, so every month on the Book Blab, we each pick a book to recommend, and we choose a subject that we want to recommend a book that goes along with a certain subject. Anyway, so this month we thought it would be fun to share a book that has a setting or location that we would like to visit. So maybe while we were reading it, we were thinking, oh, I wish this was real, or I wish I could go there. So Suzanne, what book did you choose for this category?
Okay, so I feel like there are the super obvious answers to this question. Yes. I mean, maybe they're only obvious to me, but like Prince Edward Island, like
yes,
that's someday
on my bucket list forever.
Right? Exactly. Someday I am going to Prince Edward Island. So, I mean, that's an obvious one. Like Pemberley is an obvious one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
My sister actually just got back from the trip of a lifetime to New Zealand and went to Hobbitville. Wow. And so her pictures, I was like, oh, yep, there's another, yeah, and Hobbitville, right?
Right.
I'm going to check that out at some point in my life. So,
right.
Okay, but anyway, I think the actual answer I'm going to go with, the recommendation I'm going to go with, is The Secret Garden, and it's not
nice.
it's not like one specific place, right? It's like not a real place, but just the idea of it, right? The idea of this walled-in secret garden with, I don't know, like just. Oh, it just sounds so magical, and I want one. I want my backyard to be a secret garden. Anyway, and I'm not a gardener at all, but maybe I will become one now that I have.
I know.
So we'll see.
I'm not a gardener at all either, but I always tell people that I can appreciate gardens. So I would love to have a gardener and be able to
have a garden to appreciate, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think secret garden is just this ideal setting. I think.
Yes, and I think especially the fact that we're both introverts, that shows, I mean, I feel like not everyone would love a secret garden, to go and like have this quiet and be able to be alone, but that just sounds magical.
I know.
Be able to close the door and no one will know you're there.
Yes. Yeah, sounds perfect to me. So anyway, yeah, what's your book, Amy? I'm excited to hear.
So my book, I'm going with so I think I've recommended a book from the Penderwick series before. Not this one, but a different one. And I can't remember. Have you read any of the Penderwick?
I haven't. They were on my list, but I haven't gotten around to them yet.
I would say that's a great summer series. Just the whole series is great. But this is the third book, the Penderwicks in Point Mouette. At Point Mouette, and I loved this book. This is the third one in the series, and it does take place in the summer, and the Penderwicks go to just a little cabin in Maine, and so they're like right on the beach, and it is so idyllic. Like, I read this, and you know, with some books, in retrospect, I think about them and I'm like, yeah, that would be a fun place to go. But I can remember reading this book and just longing to be there, because it was just such a pretty location. It just sounded so magical and so perfect for summer. And like, what kid wouldn't want to just be living right on the beach in Maine. It was just beautiful. So I hesitated to recommend this just because it's the third in the series, and I'm always like, I don't know, for me, I'm like, oh, I have to read 3 books before I can actually, or 2 other books before I can get to the one that, you know, she's recommending. But I mean, you could read these out of order, but it's a great summer series, whether you read this one or start with the first one. So, but anyway, that's my recommendation.
Okay. I've got to get to those ones. Yeah.
I will say this one and the fourth one I loved more than the first and second. So that's the other thing.
Interesting. That's good.
Yeah.
Series gets better as it goes along.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up then. But we want to thank everyone for joining us this month. This has been a fun discussion, I think.
Yes,
It was lots of fun. And definitely, we'd love to hear about any of our viewers' experiences with summer reading programs. So leave comments, let us know how you feel about the topic. And
I was also going to say, too, for our viewers, if you have something that you'd like us to talk about on one of these future episodes, please leave that in the comments also. I mean, we have our own ideas, but we would love to know if you have any burning questions or burning topics that you'd like to have us talk about. So feel free to do that as well.
Yeah, and we'll be back next month or sometime
Right.
with another fun episode. So
All right. See ya.
Bye.